crafty friends. Thank you for joining me today. We are going to make this cute corner tuck fun fold card. See, it starts out like that. Just that little corner tucks in there. I think it's a really cute card, very easy to make, great for making multiples for the holidays. And I think it adds, just a little something special, a little unexpected interest for the recipient. So I hope you will join me and stay with me, and I'll show you how to make this. My name is Linda Edwards. I'm with Crafty Heron Designs. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I would love to help you unleash your inner creativity. If you do not currently work with a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I would love to help you out. You can find me at craftyherondesigns.stampinup.net. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Crafty Heron Designs. So let's go ahead and get started. The card we're going to make today, as you can see, this is the green. We are using the Brightest Glow stamp set. That's for the inside sentiment. And I will give you all the dimensions. I'm going to make it in a different color. So we're going to use Very Vanilla. I don't use Very Vanilla that often. And we're going to use the black and the gold. So, of course, you'll start with your envelope. We did this card in my last card class, and when I hand out all the pieces, the bits and pieces, whether it's a created home card class or in-person card class, this is how they come in the envelope. So the first is the card base. It is Very Vanilla. It's cut at 8.5 by 4 1/4, and it's scored at 3 inches. Of course, the first thing I always like to do is to go ahead and fold and burnish that and set it aside so that it doesn't get inky while I'm working. And then we're going to have an inside piece, which is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Not as critical for when it's the same, the Very Vanilla, but when I did the green one, you definitely would want to do an inside piece. I decided to go ahead and do it anyway because I wanted to give it a little more weight to the card. I think it adds a lot of interest. And then the other pieces of coordinating Very Vanilla, you'll have a 3 1/4 by 3 1/4 piece. Then you'll have a piece that's 2.5 by 2. And you're actually going to cut it on the diagonal. So you can see 2.5 by 2, and you'll cut it on the diagonal, so then you will have 2 pieces you'll have enough to make 2 cards with that. And then for your sentiment, you need a scrap that's about 3.5 by 1 inch. So one of the things I'm going to do today is teach you, I'm going to give you some tips. We're going to do some partial die cutting because the die that I wanted to use is too short for my sentiment. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm also going to give you some tips for using the stamparatus. So stay tuned. Then the designer series paper, I'm using the Lights Aglow. This is the black. I really like this gold. It really sparkles. And I thought it, kept with the theme with the snowflakes. So it's cut 4 inches by 2 3/4. Then I've got another piece that's 2.5 by 2. And again, I cut it on the diagonal, corner to corner. And you do have to kind of pay attention to which direction you want it to go, because if you cut it the other way, it won't fit on your corner. That'll be apparent as we move along. So don't cut that just yet. And then the Festive Foils is 3 inches by 3 inches, and they're going to use some of the snowflakes, which I think are so pretty. They're really pearlescent. They really sparkle and shine. I think you can see that. So let's move this aside and go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with stamping. I always like to start with my stamping, and I'm using the Merry Christmas, which is from the Ringed with the Nature stamp set. This is a great one. It's got Christmas and fall and very versatile stamp set. So that I'm using that Merry Christmas from that stamp set, and it is a photopolymer stamp. And I'm going to stamp with the Memento Black, Tuxedo Black ink. And I'm just going to stamp in the center of the piece of paper because we are going to die cut that. So let's just go ahead and get that. Now this board that I'm on has a little cushion to it, so I don't need to bring in the any padding, but with a photopolymer stamp, often you do want to use something to cushion your stamp so that you get a good crisp image. All right, and then I'm going to set that aside. We're going to do the other stamping. I am going to stamp on the envelope. I'm using the snowflake that's actually from the Season of Chic stamp set. I've got that fun little snowflake there. So that's what I'm going to put, keeping with the snowflake theme. I'm going to stamp that on my envelope. Again, it is photopolymer, but I've got a little cushion. This is actually a, what do they call it? For a mouse pad. So it's got that cushion like a mouse pad does. There you go. Okay, so that's my envelope. And then I have a little more stamping. I'm going to bring in the stamparatus for this. So I like to use the stamparatus when I'm dealing with sentiments that are cling stamps, because you can't see through them like you can with the photopolymer. So I have set that up already. What I did was I put my piece of paper in here. We're using the 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece, and I want the sentiment to be to the left so that it doesn't show when the card is opening and closing, because as you'll recall, this piece is going to go inside here. So I've got it set to left. I set it all up, and then I made sure that it's stamped straight, and then you can adjust it. You know, you can take your base off, and you can either look at it and see, is it straight with the lines, or you can stamp, or both. You know, you stamp it and see, did it come out straight? So I like to put something under there when I'm inking it, so that it gets me good pressure, right? So I can make sure that I'm doing a good job of inking. As you can see, okay, good. I think that's going to be good. If not, you know what? We turn the paper around and we try it again. Back, give it a good back rub. Yes, I'm happy with that. You know, if I had missed a spot, I could go back over it with the stamparatus. That's the other beauty of using the stamparatus, that you could stamp multiple times if you don't get quite good coverage the first time around. So that is stamped. And then the last bit of stamping I'm going to do, I'm bringing in this Encore Gold. We no longer sell this at Stampin' Up. We used to, but I think it's a good way to add a little gold interest to your cards. You could certainly also heat emboss it. And I'm using the little star. This is actually the little star from the Nothing's Better Than stamp set. It's got this little bitty star in it. And I thought it was really kind of fun and echoed the star that is on the front, or the snowflake that's on the front. So just gently adding a few little stars to add a little bit of interest. Let's see. How about there? Okay. And that is it. Our stamping is done. Put the ink away. I told you, this is really easy, this one. All right, we'll set that aside to let it dry, and then let's go ahead and cut our sentiment. So we are going to do some partial die cutting. I wanted to show you. So I'm using the die from the Pretty Pillow Box dies. Isn't that, it's really pretty. And you'll see the first time I went, if I did the Merry Christmas in it, it's really tight on both sides. I was not happy with that. So, you know, easy enough. That is really one of the easiest ways to extend your stash, is to go ahead and just do a partial die cut. So I'm going to put my pieces down. I've got my 1, 2, and 3, and then I'm going to lay this on, and as you can see, it's going to be too short. So I'm going to, on the left side, I'm kind of moving it over so that I can line it up on the left as far out as I want it to go. And I just want it to be out a little bit. Lining it up, make sure it looks straight. And then I'm going to run that through the die cutting machine, but I'm not going to go all the way to the end. See how I'm stopping it right about there? I could go a little bit more, just about there. And then bringing it back, taking out my sandwich. And as you can see, it's only partially die cut. Now I turn it around, it's going to go in this way, and I can line it up. And then because it's got these little stitching lines, it really kind of will lock into place. So I can kind of feel when it's all lined up. Okay, and that's a good distance. I'm happy with that. Oh, see, now sometimes when these long ones go through, they kind of bend up a little bit. So I'm bending it down a little bit to make sure that it's gonna stay in place. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna lock it in place. Again, that spot is where I want it. And you know, you could always tape it down if you felt like you needed to. Like I'm thinking maybe I'm gonna need to, because somehow, there we go. All right. Now I'm going to bring this through again. And again, I'm not going to go all the way through because I've already cut. So I'm just going a little bit through, hopefully far enough that I cut the whole thing. And yes, I did. There you go. So that's a partial die cut. Really easy to do and a great way to extend your dies. You could do that with rectangles, circles. Well, circles would turn into an oval, I guess. But any of the labels, and we have a lot of label dies. So let's see, so all of our stamping is done. Let's bring in all of our pieces and let's put it all together. So let's see, what do I want to do first? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and take this piece first, and it's just going to be adhered to the front of the card. And I like to use liquid glue. You just use whatever works best for you. And it is just going to be kind of centered there. All right. And then the other part of the front of the card, it's just a nice square. So I'm gonna layer that. That's that festive foil. Comes in gold and red and green. Really pretty. And a nice shimmer. So there's a lot of gold in these pieces in this card. Okay, and then my snowflake, let's see, so I have to decide. I think I'm gonna want it to go that way. Not that it'll matter because the snowflake's it's a circle, but I'm gonna use a glue dot to attach the snowflake to the front of the card. And I'm just attaching the glue dot right in the center there, and then kind of lining that up. I think I want it this way. And you can kind of, wiggle it a little bit to get it straight. All right. And then my Merry Christmas is going to go on top of that, but I think I'm going to wait until I attach this piece to my card before I do that part. All right. So we cut these, remember, this is going to go here on your card. So you need to kind of look at it and see which direction it's going to go. That's why I said when you cut it, make sure you realize what direction. Because if I cut it this way, I would have this side showing. You see how that wouldn't work? So when you cut this rectangle piece, it's the left corner to the right corner face up is what you want. And then we're just going to attach this directly to this very vanilla. And this is just to give it a little structure and weight, because you're going to be opening and closing the card. So there's going to be some movement there. So I wanted to make sure that this was sturdy. So attach those two together like that. And then in order to attach that to your card, it's going to go right here, but we only want to put adhesive on the outside corners, right? Because we want that other corner to tuck in here. So you can either use liquid glue or you can use tear and tape. Now I happen to have one that's really thin. You could also use the standard 1/4 inch. This is 1/8 inch. I am going to go ahead and try the 1/8 inch and see if it's going to be thicker. I don't know. I haven't done it. I haven't used the 1/8 inch, but I thought it might be nice to give it a little more room. I don't know if it's going to be sturdy enough, so I'm going to experiment for you and try it with the 1/8 inch tear and tape. But you don't need a ton of space in here for it, so I think the other's going to be fine too. Have you started working with your Christmas cards? I don't know. Have you send a lot of Christmas cards out? I'd love Love to know if you do multiples, different kinds, or do you choose one design and send everybody the same one? I usually end up with multiples just because I do the card classes, and so I've always got lots of fun different cards. All right, so that, you see how I just have the tape on those corners. I'm going to tuck that all the way into the corner of this base before I attach it in my card. This insert, I guess it's not really a base. All right, there we go. And it doesn't matter if it shows a little bit on the edges because it's white on white. If you were doing a light color on a dark card base, you might have to be a little more careful so that you didn't see the very vanilla or the white behind it. But in this case, it's a little foolproof. All right, here we go. Put this in. We are almost done. I think you can see very easily where this is going. The last part is lining this up. So you want it to line up so that it's going to tuck under there, but you also you've got some ability to kind of determine how high you can go. So like if you used that thicker tear and tape, you'd be fine. You just would adjust where you attach this piece. So I can see I've got plenty of room. I can see that my sentiment is hidden, and even if you had a different sentiment, if it was a little bit longer, it would be okay because it would be hidden behind there. But what I'm going to do is then I'm going to decide I only want that to tuck in just a little bit. So I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to turn it here and line it up again where I want it to be tucked in, and then I can see how far over my adhesive needs to go. So, because it's got some movement in it, you do want to make sure that you have a good adhesive. And then I'm going to put that just like that. But of course you don't want it to glue your card shut. All right, give that a minute. I think I'm going to turn it over, give it a good back rub, make sure it's all tight. And then I'm going to add dimensionals to the back of my sentiment. And this one's a little long, so I am going to put 3 in there. And then we are done. I hope you stayed till the end. I thank you if you did. Here we go. I'll bring in the original one that I did to show you. So we've got the green or the black and gold. Do you have a preference? Let me know in the notes. Comment if you can. It does help me. If you like the video, if you give me a thumbs up or comment, if you're watching me on Facebook or on YouTube, and if you'd like to see future videos, I do try and do a couple of videos a month. Subscribe to my channel or like my Facebook page, and you will be notified when I've got more videos coming up. But I just realized I forgot I have embellishments. Always got a little bit of bling. So I'm going to use the classic matte dots. You can see on here, I used the gold dots, but I felt like the gold wouldn't show up here. So I'm going to add some of these little dots to just add one more layer of interest. Oh my goodness, can't get these open. Here we go. So this will be better. Use my take your pick tool. I think I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna use the small ones. So I'll put one there. Oh yeah, that's much better. Another one maybe over here. That flipped over on me. Oh my gosh, I've never had that happen before. Did you see that? The green of the little sticky stuff kind of stuck there. There we go. Get that off. That is too funny. All right, and one more, I think right down there. So a little triangle there. You know, the rule of threes, triangles. So thank you again for sticking around. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you again soon. Happy crafting.